All right, Debbie.
Yes.
Debbie, where'd you grow up? Where are you from?
Well, I'm originally born in Gary, Indiana. I was adopted, and my parents, they lived in Portage, so I'm actually from Portage, Indiana.
Which is right next door.
Yes, right next door. I went to Portage High School. I was a swimmer. I swam for like 7 years on the swim team. I love to swim, so my also I like to swim in lakes. I was a lake swimmer too. So my parents raised me on a cabin up in Michigan on a lake. So they figured that would keep me away from boys, which it did for a little while. But as soon as my girlfriend got a tattoo at 16 and she showed me, and I was like, I have to have a tattoo. I want to get a tattoo. Like, where'd you get this tattoo? And she said, Roy Boy. I said, well, you have to take me. I have to go get a tattoo. So she actually took me to Roy Boys and I did get a tattoo. So then my career changed. I was just hooked. I fell in love with tattooing right then and there and I wouldn't stop. And here I am 43 years later and I'm in the business, tattoo
So
business.
that's where you met Roy Boy,
Yeah, at the tattoo shop.
and you eventually became his.
Wife, I married him.
Oh, you married him.
Yes, I married him. Yeah, he was married, but I married him.
And
Yeah.
did the romance start then when you guys met, or?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, it was pretty wild. I was 16. I was in high school, like I told you. I was on a swim team. Roy actually would come on his motorcycle to the high school and pick me up on his motorcycle and take me to work. So the principal would see this happening. He's like, he went outside one day and asked Roy, he's like, where are you taking Debbie? Because the principal used to swim too, Mr. Ross. And he used to swim and he used to see me swimming every morning. So he was just like really taken away that this biker dude was picking me up and taking me on a motorcycle. Where is he taking me? Well, actually, he's taking me to work because I'm turning into a tattoo artist. So I was apprenticing for Roy Boy at that time. Then I don't know, it happened like we had an affair. And I don't know, it's like we were friends, but we like grew in love with each other. But the love was so strong and the passion, you know what I mean? That like we didn't care what happened. Like he was married and he gave up his marriage. I mean, he did try to save it, but it wasn't savable, you know what I mean? And I went away, I disappeared for a while. So we got together and within a year we were married. I think I married him at 21, but he went through a divorce and I wasn't ready. I was young. I want to take my time. But I do got to tell you the story. When I first met Roy, I got to back up a little bit. So when I met Roy at the tattoo shop, I was going to get a tattoo, and I did. I got a tattoo. My mother paid for it. It was $40. And then he's like, well, come back, Debbie, next week and come and see me and come and visit. So I went back a couple times. Well, this one time I went back, I think this may be the third time I went back to go visit him. And he was tattooing a guy on Ridge Road in this apartment building. He was on the bottom floor. And the guy in Portage where I used to live, he was a drug dealer. So he used to go to Broadway and sell drugs back in the day. Well, he used to drop me off at Roy's. And, so he would drop me off. Sorry, I'm sweating. It's hot in here. So he would drop me off and I went inside to see Roy. He was tattooing. And when I went in there, he goes, go sit down in the kitchen and I'll be right there. Okay. So I went in there and he's boiling something. I'm like, what the heck? Why would you leave a fire like that and you're tattooing? So I think maybe set me up. I don't know. So I went over there to go see what he's boiling. He was boiling a human skull. I mean, I shit my pants. I ran out of there. I didn't even look back. I mean, I was so fast. I was in the guy's car that was pulling away onto Ridge Road to go to Broadway. You know what I mean? I was that quick. And I didn't talk to Roy for 2 weeks. I wouldn't even answer my phone. I was scared shitless. I had no idea what was going on. I didn't want to know. I was just like, I got to get out of here. You know what I mean? Well, at that time, he lived in Wheeler and he lived on a graveyard. Well, the farmer was twirling, and I guess all these graves were coming up and some of these skulls. Well, he used them for photos and for photography or whatever, but it was just a craziest story. That was one of the wildest stories. I mean, I just couldn't believe he was boiling a human skull. I guess it cleans and it shrinks it or something, whatever he said. I don't know. But I was out of there.
So Roy Boy passed away how many years ago?
It's been, I think, about 12 years, I think, something like that. Yeah, he passed away. And then it was like 4 years after that, my son passed away on Roy's motorcycle. My son was leaving the shop here, and he was going home just 3 days before his graduation party. And a lady hit him, and he went through her window, went back up in the air, came back down, hit his head, and it was just terrible. It was horrible. Right then and there, my whole world changed again. You know what I mean? I just was a whole different person. I broke down, kind of. I couldn't talk. I mean, I stuttered. I would shiver for about a year and a half, just nonstop, just shiver, 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 like from the bones out, right? My heart hurt, like somebody was chopping at my heart, when my son passed like that. I ended up taking like Xanaxes and diet pills for like a year and a half. I was deballing, and I never did drugs. I never did cocaine, never did anything. But that felt good. I liked that feeling, but I had to get off of it. I couldn't do that forever. But the only way I can survive my son's death is staying straight. I don't drink or do hard drugs. I definitely smoke a little weed, but I don't do that other stuff. That's the only way I can handle it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Once you get started with that, then
yeah, it's just gone from there.
Spiral
I'll
downward.
never recover.
Tell me about Roy Boy a little bit. He had white tigers.
Yeah, he was awesome. Well, when I met him, he was married, and him and Jeannie had tigers. They were in Wheeler, and they had their own farm. So when I was in high school, I was actually coming to their farm, and I was helping him work with the cats and feeding them and learning the tigers. So when me and Roy got married, I adapted really well with the animals. I love animals. And so we raised, I don't know, so many cats. We had 3 tigers at once, all the same age. That was pretty wild. We had monkeys, different type of monkeys. We had Black Panther. That was the baddest cat ever. Their claws are like razor blades. They attract a whole different way. That was pretty interesting. We've had python snakes big enough to squeeze me and strangle me. It took 5 people to pull them off me. I can't deal with snakes anymore. We did the photos on the beach with the tigers where they dragged me down the beach and stuff, where I had to get back up there and do some more photos right after we get the cat under control. So we've done a lot of wild stuff. Roy was very powerful. Roy could turn anything into gold, whatever he touched. He's just so talented. He could multitask. I don't know, we did videos too. He was a director. He did music. He's very, very talented. Just very artistic in everything.
And of course, he had this tattoo shop, which is not just a tattoo shop, but it's like the tattoo shop.
Yeah. He had the tattoo shop. We're like the second oldest tattoo shop in Indiana. He also shot for all the tattoo magazines and the biker magazines and some of the Easy Rider, Hustler, Penthouse, Gallery. He shot for a lot of magazines. So he was pretty famous, and sometimes he got paid and sometimes he didn't get paid, but to him it really didn't matter because the PR, the advertising, and just getting out there. He was so smart. You know what I mean? He pretty much did the whole magazines. You know what I mean? They had to do fictitious names. They had to do fake photos, but those photos and stories were all from Roy Boy. You know what I mean? It's just people thought he owned those magazines, but he was just in with Bob Bitchin that owned them. And he didn't give up. He just kept hitting those, owners, own those magazines. He just stayed on them, and, they loved his work. He's just very. And
he was older than you?
Oh, yeah. He was 20 years older than me.
20 years older. And so he passed away. What from?
Well, he had a jet car crash. That was pretty wild.
A what?
A jet car crash. He was in a jet car.
A jet?
Jet car. Yeah, he was going 300 miles an hour when he had this crash. He was down in Morocco, Indiana, and I was there, and I was filming, taking photographs, and he bought this jet car down in Florida and a trailer, and I was like, dude, I don't think you should buy that. It's really too fast. And I had a bad dream about that car, and I seen a crash right in front of my grandma's house on Dombey Road in Portage. I told my mother about it, so she remembered that crash. She remembered me telling her about it, but it was like 2 years later, and he was on the racetrack, and he was just, firing it up, getting the car to fire and, do that smoke, a show. He was doing a great job. And I don't know what happened. I think they said the car reversed backwards or something, like shot back and then it shot back up in the air. But he should have probably died in that accident, but he didn't. He had a broken arm, a rod in his arm, and a big plate in his leg. So what happened to him, like 10 years later, the plate was rejecting in his leg. We didn't know at the time. Well, my son would be here with him and he'd be in the office and he, of course, with the wound that bad. And, years later, he was, using, pain pills and stuff. My son actually see him take a screwdriver and loosen the screw in his own leg. I mean, there was an open wound there because, there's a tiger bite that got into that area because the tiger smelled the icky flesh smell a little bit. So the tiger bit that, It's a long story, I got to back up a little bit. I'm sorry. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. There's so much to tell you. But there was a fire across the street. So when we had that fire, Roy walked into soot and I don't know, just the tiger smelt it or something happened. And the tiger punctured like the jet car crash wound because it was kind of blackened right there. So that wouldn't heal. So he's having problems with his leg, his ankle from this jet car crash for these 10 years. So he ended up using, he was started with Vicodins and he ended up using Oxycontins. He was taking 1,000 milligrams of Oxycontins per hour, plus alcohol, liquid morphine. What else? His body was just probably shutting down from all the years of doing it. And, I made him go to the doctors. I made him get checked and they wouldn't take his leg. And he wasn't going to have no part of it. He's like, no way, no way. I mean, I want to go with him to the doctors. He wouldn't even let me go because he knew he was going to be mad. And I guess he took some other girl and he ran a stoplight and a stop sign. He was going to hit somebody and fuck somebody up from all this shit that had happened, this bad news. You know what I mean? He just couldn't handle stuff like that. Couldn't even handle get his tooth pulled. You know what I mean? He wanted to fuck up the USDA when that shit happened like that. You know what I mean? That's the people that run the cat organization. So, it's pretty wild. But yeah, he definitely had a bad leg. So, there's really nothing we could do because we didn't know at the time the metal was, he's rejecting. And from his drinking, his liver was shutting down. We couldn't even replace the liver. We tried. We were going to, but his body was too far gone, too shot from all the pills, I guess, pretty much, and the drinking and stuff. But it was horrible. My son really lost it when his daddy died because he was like maybe 10 or 11. You know what I mean? It was really rough. And this is the craziest thing I got to tell you. Roy said, he goes, when I die, he goes, you're not going to have any money. I'm like, what? Can you believe when Roy died, I had $1. I had $1 and I rebuilt this place since then. Me and my son helped me, because, he was alive for 4 years, but we rebuilt this place. Well, when my son died, I crashed again. I went all the way down to nothing again. So we had to start again and rebuild this place and build again and build again. It's like, I get tired of rebuilding, but I don't give up. I keep going for the legacy. It's very important. This shop's not a big business, but it does feed, 4, 5, 6 families. I wanted to keep going. Gary's very good to us. The customers here are wonderful. They cater to us. We cater to them. I love working in Gary. I'm not scared. I was in the beginning when I first came here, because my son passed and, I was scared about everything. But I've rebuilt myself. I've gotten stronger. Chaz has helped me so much. She's an owner here at this shop, and she's been with me for probably the 9 years since Cody's passed. But she was also trained by Roy Boy back in the day, years ago, so she's been around for a long time. But she's really helped me see and be strong and overcome my son's death. Plus I had to go to some meetings and grieving classes, stuff like that. But it was hard. I don't wish this on anybody. It was the most painful thing I ever went through in my life. But I had to reverse it to a positive, So I don't give up. I just keep going,
Tell me about the shop a little bit. You do famous people as well?
Yeah. Well, back in the day when Roy was alive, we tattooed Greg Allman. He's done Lenny Kravitz. He's done Johnny Winters. He's done the Stray Cats. He's done a bunch of basketball players from Chicago. Gosh, there's several. I think I said Greg Allman. Yeah, he's pretty cool. He just, I don't know. He was just a badass, you know what I mean? He was a big guy, but he was very gentle too, you know what I mean? And it was crazy because, like I told you, I had a grizzly bear, and my bear was like 6 months old, and I became pregnant. And I'm like, oh my God, my bear didn't like Roy, you know, because Roy used to wrestle him and he broke his spirit, you know? So the bear loved me, you know, as my bear. I raised him, and I was pregnant. And it's like, God, what am I going to do? You know, bear Cody, you know, I had to give up my bear to a zoo. My bear was doing movies and stuff out there for a while. And then I guess he came back, and he was over there in Ohio. I guess they had an accident where the guy went nuts and he let all the animals go. Well, my bear got shot, I guess. Yeah, it's horrible. But my bear Mikey got shot.
You guys had tigers, Black Panther, pythons, and you needed a bear too.
Yeah, I had to have a grizzly bear. Actually, he was illegal because we got him from Ohio instead of Indiana. Yeah, you're not supposed to do stuff like that.
You ever had problems with all these animals?
I was pretty lucky. I've had a couple. I got clawed a couple times from the tigers doing photo sessions.
No one
and
ever
stuff.
got hurt. No one ever got hurt.
No, I was very lucky. But we did have an accident. This was pretty wild. We had a guy that was a good friend of ours, and he wanted to do a photo session with the tigers. Well, he was scared, and he put it off and put it off. Well, we finally decided to do this photo session. So the tiger's in the basement, and I'm upstairs, and there's a glass door there, and then the guy's outside the door. Well, for some reason, I couldn't get out the door. It was locked on the outside because it locks both ways. You know what I mean? So I couldn't get out. And Roy was bringing the tiger up to meet the guy. Well, the guy must have been in the wrong position because it's like coming up a stairway and the guy was right there, and the guy should have moved over here. But it was just perfect prey. You know what I mean? I don't know. The cat was getting older or just had an attitude, or I don't know. It was prey. You know what I mean? The cat was like, just went nuts. I was like blown away. I seen the cat bite the guy 3 or 4 times like a rag doll and just toss him around. I couldn't get out the door. I tried to help. I couldn't. You know what I mean? I would have been dead probably. Who knows what would have happened. But Roy never carried a gun with him with these cats. Something told him to carry a gun that time. He did. And he never did. He shot that cat right then and there. He had to. And the cat laid there, and he took the guy. He dragged him down the stairs in the basement, hosed him down. I was freaking out. I stayed at the shop. Him and a girl got in the truck. They went to the hospital in Hobart, told him that a Rottweiler bit the guy. The wounds were this big around in his neck and his shoulders and stuff, his chest. His tit was ripped, clawed. And I mean, nothing happened. We ended up paying all the hospital bills for the guy. The cat ended up getting stuffed. And I had a man come and get the cat, take it for us. The guy moved the cat by himself. That cat was 400 pounds. That guy moved that cat by himself. Yeah, pretty wild. Pretty wild.
That sounds like a very wild lifestyle.
It was very, very wild. I mean, it's why I stay here, because I had such a wild lifestyle. This keeps me going. It keeps it interesting. Sometimes a little too much, you know what I mean? I mean, this shop's hard to run up here. We're in Gary. There's a lot of drugs around here. Sometimes we've had problems with the artists doing drugs. You know, I mean, it's just been hell, you know, but this shop is great. I mean, we have a great crew. We do have great artists here. You know, like I said, we've been through some shit, but we're back up. Again, I had to make some hard decisions. And I love those people, but I had to let them go because my life is on the line, and so is this business. You know what I mean? I can't do it anymore. But now we're back up and we're rocking and rolling. And my plan is to have a museum, and we're going to have like art classes. We're going to have a wedding chapel. We're going to have where you can walk through the tiger cage and see all the animals or pictures or, you know, maybe a couple animals, fake stuff, you know, whatever we can get away with and do, we're going to do it. You know what I mean? This ain't over. This is just the beginning. It's just I had to get my mind straight and heal a little bit. And now we're going to, I got all my chickens are home. I got all my angels are here now. And we're going to run it. We're going to run this shop as good and as hard as we can.
And tattoos are much more popular now than they were back in the
very much so.
70s,
Yeah.
80s, 90s.
Yeah. We're so popular. We're so busy up in here. One day I had my mom here, and this is like after my son passed. My mom has dementia, and she was in here in the office, and she felt Cody. She was dancing, and she's loving it. And one of my artists did something, and he stabbed the wall, like with Chinese thing. And I was like, why would they do that? You know what I mean? They put like 90 holes in the wall. I seen that, and I'm like, I was in a bad place at that time. I'm like, I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to kill you too. I was talking about my mother. This is terrible. I said that. I couldn't believe I said that. So I go home, and I would never say that. And I was so sick in what I said. And I think my dad heard it because probably my sharp artist called and told on me or something because my dad was pissed at me and stuff. But anyways, my dad was in a hospital. I put my mom to bed. I went in the kitchen, and I just felt horrible. And I went back into my mom's room to check on her. I couldn't believe it, but I seen my son as an angel. I seen my son as a freaking angel. He had his arms wrapped around my mom like this, angel wings. And what I seen is like a huge torso body from like the chest down to the waist, belly button. And that's how big it was. And I just seen the wings, and I felt him, I seen him. And he's definitely a very strong, powerful angel. And I told my dad. My dad didn't say a whole lot, but I told my preacher, I'm like, you know what? I seen this. He goes, yeah. He goes, you've seen an angel. He goes, you might only see one in your lifetime. He goes, but you've seen an angel. He goes, everybody that's seen an angel told me exactly what you just said. I seen every little detail, those feathers. I seen everything. It was gorgeous, beautiful, so powerful. It gives me goosebumps right now just thinking about this. But that's when I started healing, is when I seen my son as an angel. I couldn't believe it. And someone said, I might see my son. One day you might see him. I seen him like 2-3 years later after he passed. And then I started healing because I know he's in heaven. I know he's alive, and I know he's powerful, and I know he's doing something for me up there. That's what keeps me going. I know I might be crazy, but that's what keeps me going, you know? So I love my son. I worked really hard trying to train him as an artist, you know? And I was training his friends also, like 2 more artists. So there's Jeremy, German, and Cody. After those boys, I never went to train anybody again. I was done. I'm like, they gave me so much shit, and it was so hard, and it was just a challenge. But I did it. I got all 3 of them. Jeremy Lewandowski is one of the best tattoo artists in the world. He's out of Australia. My son could run a shop at, 18, 19 years old, like you wouldn't believe it, you know. And he was a good artist. He tattooed that hand in that case right there. And then German, he was a great artist. He's a great artist. Fantastic.
Tell me why people get tattoos.
Well, to show off their bodies, to be sexy. I don't know. Just they're addicting. You know, it's like drugs. I guess they're addicting. You get one, you want more and more and more.
They become so popular now.
Yeah. I mean, the girls are just getting whole bodies, and just they're getting all blacked out now, and their faces tattooed. And I don't know if I can go that far, but it's cool. I love it. You know, I like looking.
You're tattooed from the neck down.
Yeah, I'm like 80% tattooed. Roy's done all my tattoos. They faded quite a bit. These are like 35. Some of them could be 40 years old. I'll be 58 in a couple weeks. So yeah, these tattoos are old. I started at 16, and I pretty much haven't got any tattoos since late 28 or something. I'm just too busy tattooing everybody, so I don't have time to get tattoos, and I'm really not into the pain. I think when Roy tattooed me so much so fast, he burnt out my pain tolerance, because I don't want nothing to do with pain. When it hurts, it hurts. I'm like, no. I like to inflict pain on somebody, but I don't want to Yeah, I don't want to do it. I'm sorry, I'm sweating. It's hot here. So, I was adopted, and I was in an orphanage. And back in the day, I was raised by my mom and dad. They're great people, very religious. Well, to back up, when I was born, I guess my mother was raped, from what I understand. My biological mother was raped on Broadway in Gary. She worked at a restaurant, and then she also worked at a pizza joint down the street. Well, somehow Roy Boy knew this, okay? And he kept this quiet probably for like 10, 20 years. I knew nothing. Well, when my son passed away, I went looking for my biological mother. I found her, and she's like 85 years old. Well, anyways, I was trying to find the father, and she wouldn't give me much information. And I seen a guy that was really good friends of me and Roy, and he even lived at my house. This is a really good friend, and he wouldn't lie to me. He wouldn't bullshit me, and he knew Pat Joe Banowski, and he used to tattoo with him also back in the day. This guy's from Lockport. But anyways, supposedly this is my father. This man is my father. And I was tattooing him back in the day, like in the 80s, and I didn't even know he was my father. And he used to say things to me. He's like, I would treat you like my daughter, or I would let no one come tattoo with me but only you, because you're like a daughter to me. He would say things, but we do have blue eyes. We have the same blue eyes. My son has blue eyes. I really do believe the cheekbones. He's Pollock.
So
I'm
in this
Pollock.
photo, you're tattooing your dad, but you don't realize he's your
No,
dad.
I had no idea for 10, 20 years that was my father.
He probably knew.
Oh, he knew. He knew. You could see he knew. You could see it in his face. He knew. He knew. He was happy as heck. I was tattooing on him.
Debbie, what would you say is your biggest regret in your life?
My biggest regret? Probably divorcing Roy, actually. Roy really loved me. And Roy told me, I was too young, but he told me you can have different levels of love. And I didn't understand, but now I do. And even when we were divorced, we still helped each other. We still set each other business and stuff, So I think I divorced him. He was cheating on me. He was doing some wild shit, and I don't know. I was young. He was my first love, so I kind of snapped, I guess you could say,
And Roy's life was he grew up how?
Well, his mom was a hairdresser, and his dad worked for the Gary Post Tribune. And they were married, and they used to sunbathe a lot. They both died of cancer. His dad died of bone cancer. The mother died of skin cancer. They both at the same time. Isn't that kind of weird? But they were separated for like 10 years because they divorced. And so Roy and his sister were raised together from the father. You know what I mean? And Roy used to have, I think he had an ape or something back in the day. He used to have animals. And my grandma didn't live too far from there. And actually our church lived right next door. You know what I mean? So there was rumors about the apes and the animals, but I was always scared. But I would never thought I'd marry the guy next door to the church, the Roy Boy Cooper. You know what I mean? That's just so crazy. But I did. It's just so weird. Small world. Right next door to church where I was raised, I married Roy Cooper. There's a sign that says Roy Cooper right there. So wild. But my parents, they're really religious, and they really were upset that I married Roy. They were happy because I was kind of wild child, and I was a tomboy. And about 13, 14, 15, I was, smoking weed and partying and drinking a little bit like anybody else. So when I did meet Roy, I stopped all that, and I got into the tattooing. So my parents seen a change in me, you know what I mean? So they're real happy that I found something that I really loved, and I was really working at it, you know what I mean? I was just really getting into the tattoo business, and I was doing the conventions with Roy. We were traveling to Sturgis, and we were really out there, getting out there, doing things, and you'll see all that in those videos.
Gary, Indiana is a very interesting town.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Home of Michael Jackson.
Yes. And Roy had a building across the street. And all this time, 2 doors down, I didn't know this. And my son even went to this it was like a little candy store or something. But in the basement, they had sex trafficking. I had no idea that was there. You know what I mean? Because a biker club they bought the building and they went downstairs and they cleaning it out, and they were telling me there's chains and there were like sex tables and all kinds of stuff going on in that building. I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, you know. So yeah, Gary's pretty wild, but we stay to ourselves. We don't have any problems. You know, nothing like that's going on anymore. That was like back in probably what, 40s or 50s probably. But we stay to ourselves, and we do very well, and we help people, and we need help, they'll help us.
How many years has Roy Boy's Tattoos been in business?
Well, I've been going at it 43 years. And then Roy, I would say probably at least 15 years before me. So 50, 60 years now.
This started when tattoos were a rarity.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Back in the day when I got tattoos, women weren't even getting tattoos. I was like one of the most first female tattoos, and to ride a bike in Sturgis all tattooed. I was one of the first. They were going crazy back in the day. I was riding an elephant, you know, doing photos for Roy in Sturgis, and, you know, I got arrested. They pulled me over. It's like, how do you pull over an elephant? You know, I mean, you just stop, I guess. But anyways, they made me get off it because I was topless. They put me in a porta potty for like 2 or 3 hours, a clean one, thank God. But it was so hot. I was like banging on, trying to get out of there. Roy had to wait there the whole time until they let me go. So that was pretty funny. But I do have a really good story for you. This is funny. We used to go to Florida all the time, and we'd travel, and we had a motorhome. Well, we were in a hurry to go, so I accidentally took a gun. Well, he bought me a gun, like I was like maybe 18 years old. He bought me a .357. So I took this gun, and I'm like, hey, by the Roy, I accidentally got a gun in the motorhome, and we're in Florida. Ah, he went crazy. You can't be doing that. You're going to get us in trouble, you know, because they're real strict with guns down there. And I'm like, well, I could throw it in the lake, you know, in the ocean or whatever. He's like, no, you can't do that. You know, you don't do that. I'm like, well, what am I going to do? I don't want to get caught with this gun. I'll take the loss. He's like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. I'm like, well, what am I going to do? Well, I used to be a Girl Scout. I had Girl Scout cookies, you know what I mean? So I had the mint Girl Scout cookies. So I took out some of the cookies, and I left a lot of them in there. I took the gun, and I stuck it inside the box. Well, when you walk into a motorhome, when you walk in the steps, usually there's a cooler right there, okay? Well, I put the gun and the Girl Scout cookie box right there. So we get pulled over. Roy's speeding in a work zone, okay? We get pulled over. This cop sees me. He sees Roy. He thinks Roy kidnapped me, you know, because Roy's older. So he's got Roy in the car, and he's got me over here. He's got Roy handcuffed in the back seat of the cop car, and he's got me over here. Roy's looking at me, he's going, I'm like, oh, I'm scared shitless. You know what I mean? That guy's got a dog. I'm sitting there fucking shivering, and Roy's over here just giving me the kill look. So the dog goes in with the cop. He goes over the steps. He goes through the whole motorhome. We had a bunch of vitamins in there. Roy at the time was a health fanatic. And then I guess they cracked a shower or something, but they didn't find anything in there. They came back out, and I'm over there sweating bullets, and they let Roy go. So they let us go, and we're going home. He's like, yeah, I'm never going to do that again. He's like, I got to wear an old man mask when I drive this motorhome. And I guess when we got home, he sold the motorhome because he was so pissed off at what happened and everything. Oh, my God. That was the craziest shit. It's craziest stuff. So.
What would you say is your favorite memory in your life?
Well, my favorite memory, flying. We like to fly. Roy had a pilot's license. Yeah, he had his own plane. And this was pretty interesting too, because like when we first were together, he had a pilot that was training him how to fly. Well, we're over in Valparaiso, and he asked me to stay on the ground. And when his pilot guy gets over here, when he asks where's Roy, he goes, tell him he's right over there up in the air. And he was up in the air. He didn't even have a license yet or anything. He didn't even take license yet. How in the hell did he learn this shit? I don't know. I was like, oh my God, he's gonna crash. He didn't crash. He could drive about anything he wanted to. He was very, very good. But that was pretty wild. But he used to take that airplane, and he used to go around like Sears Tower in Chicago, and he could see people inside the windows. That's how close they were. They used to do some crazy stuff. So one time I was with him, and we're flying. And I did like to fly with him. It was fun. we'd go up in Chicago with this pilot and him and me. We had a blast. But we were coming in one time to Hobart, and we were in this plane that looked like the Jetsons. It had like a bubble on top, and it had big tires, and they bounced. So we're coming in, and all of a sudden he stalls the whole plane. I'm like, oh my God, we're gonna die. And we just went straight down, boom. And we just started bouncing. We bounced like 4 or 5 times, like so high up in the air. That was it. I was done. I never flew again. I was gonna get my pilot's license. It was so hard, the math and everything. Well, I was like, well, I'll give a couple of years extra than you know, and I'll get my pilot's. I'm like, no, we're done here. And he pretty much quit too. I think that scared the shit out of him. But he was scared. That was wild. Plus, the feds were always breaking into his planes and stuff because they thought he was moving drugs or selling drugs, which he wasn't. Everything that we built at that time was really tattoo money. There was no drugs or anything illegal like that involved. You know what I mean? We were just, our tigers were used for advertising, for PR, you know, for modeling. He liked to do the modeling with the naked girls for the magazines and, you know, all that stuff. And, you know, who wouldn't want to be posed by a tiger, you know, so, or boats, you know, he had all the toys. So all the girls wanted to be with him with the toys and, you know, be PR and all that stuff. So, I mean, I really didn't mind that much so much. It's just, like if he sent me out of town or if I went out of town, he'd be in my closet using my clothes on the girls or my makeup, my outfits. I'm like, this is getting a little too far, you know, that's my stuff. That's my personal stuff. You shouldn't be in there getting my stuff like that. So we get in arguments, like big arguments over my clothes. I'd be gone and like a year later, I see this girl with my coat. I'm like, what? That's my coat. You know, stuff like that. So it's just hilarious. So. And then he had a girl, I guess I was pregnant with Cody, and he had a girlfriend, and it was so crazy because we had a shop next door across the street, and it was 3 floors. Basement was the gym, the middle was a tattoo shop, and the upstairs was like the living quarters. Well, he had a girl upstairs the whole time for a whole year. I would go to work, she'd hide, and when I leave, she'd come down. Well, all the artists knew about it, but they couldn't say anything to me. So this whole year, I mean, I just couldn't believe that he hit a girl that long, that upstairs like that. Because I'd hear a noise. He goes, oh, it's those cats upstairs. You know, oh, okay. I didn't go up there. I didn't know. So finally, I figured things out, and we had a fight. And the cops were standing right there, and Roy's standing there, and she had a knife or something. She went around our whole vehicle and just knifed my whole vehicle. She slit my tires right for the cops and everything. Roy had to pay for everything, but that was pretty wild. But I don't know. I don't know. My greatest moments were Roy, just motorcycles, boating. There was a lot. You know, there's so much fun stuff we did. I really enjoyed the motorcycles. We rode side by side. I had my own bike. He taught me how to ride a Harley. So Sturgis was great. That was great, side by side. And we used to go to
motorcycle rally.
Yeah. You know, we just camp and just take it easy. You know, spend like $500, be gone for 2 weeks and come back home and tattoo.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Debbie, thank you so much for sharing your story.
You're welcome. Yeah. I hope I did okay.
You did
I know
great.
it's a little hard, it's a little patchy, but there's so much. It's just, you know, it's a lot to say.
You have a very interesting shop here.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.